So we've actually raised 170k in the year, which has really helped us to fund some of the deals that we've done. It makes net cash flow after all expenses of £1,122 per calendar month, which is an ROI of 57%. And the net cash flow from these investments adds up to over 54k per year.
Let's go straight on to our next presenter. Let's please put your hands together for Paul Bosomworth. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I would say it's just a great honour to be here. I'm really surprised to be here just because there are just so many amazing property investors in this group. So I just want to congratulate everybody on their success this year. Yeah, a bit about myself. I've worked for the same company for 25 years, Tata Steel. It used to be British Steel, and I've worked in finance. I'm a qualified accountant. But I've kind of always thought of myself as a bit of an entrepreneur, but and I always wanted to start my own company, but I've never really had the right idea to dive into something until I kind of happened across property investing, probably a dozen years ago or more now. And I remember at some point listening to some CDs of a fairly well-known investor at the time, and I learned a little bit at the time, but then came the credit crunch, and it put me off for a little while. But I always wanted to go back to it, and when we moved back to South Wales in 2014, I was determined to start a portfolio, and we held back some funds when we bought our property in Swansea. At the time, I was reading books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. At the time, I had a finance degree, and I was a chartered accountant, but this book completely changed my mindset on finance. It just completely revolutionized everything, that I'd been investing in my money in liabilities and not assets, and it was just such a great book. But I was also reading books like Property Magic, which is just a great book. And even though I hadn't done any training, I'd learned that there were certain properties you could buy that would give you a better return than others. And so, we actually bought our first HMO in September 2016, and that was because I knew we wanted to buy high cash flowing assets. So this year, my main strategy has been HMOs. So I'd learned quite a lot about HMOs between 2016 and 2020, and we actually had 4 properties when I started Mastermind. And we kind of reached quite a good milestone in 2019, because my wife was able to give up her part-time job, and she was able to work for herself and managing our properties. And that was a real good milestone, and we really benefited from that because she's been able to be at home, and there's been a real benefit, with our daughter being at home even through COVID and things like that. It's just been fantastic that we've had that freedom. But I must say it was really lonely. Do you know what I mean? We were kind of trying to build a portfolio with our own money. It was taking a long time. We were maybe buying 1 property a year and having reasonable success, but it was just going to take such a long time to reach our goals of having financial freedom and having options about what we do in our future and our time. So I actually went to Strategy Implementation Live last year, and then I signed up to MMA, and I did the 3 days at MMA, and I just knew at the end of that I needed to do Mastermind, and spoke to my wife, and she was, incredible really, because it's a big commitment. She was really supportive and said, go for it. But I I started Mastermind with very low funds, and so I was thinking, was it a mistake? Am I going to get all this education but not be able to do anything with it? In the summer, so I actually signed up for Mastermind 5 or 6 months before we started this time last year, September last year. And that was great because, what wasn't great was we had the lockdown in that summer, but I had time to do the online training. So I was doing the HMO training, topping up the knowledge I had in HMOs. I did the PLO training, did the deal sourcing training. And it was absolutely brilliant to be diving into something that was so valuable. And then we came to the training on raising private finance. And I must admit, I was really skeptical about it. I was a bit kind of, that's for other people, the noisy people, confident people in the network meetings. For me, it can be a bit of an introvert. This is just going to pass me by. That genuinely is what I thought. But I did the training with Simon and Andy, and it just completely changed my mindset. And it kind of just taught me that I had skills so that I could make, I had the skills that I could do investments and make a great return. And I could share some of that return with people who aren't making a great return on their money. And so I started to talk to my family members about what I was doing. And they had a bit of confidence in us as well, because we've been doing it a few years. I got to apologize to Simon, because I actually said, well, I'm enjoying this training, but the chap who's doing the training said to me, one thing I need to do to take my business forward is I need to be starting to talk to family and friends about raising private finance. So that kind of gave me a bit of an in with them. And then I started talking about the kind of opportunities I was seeing, the deals I was seeing, and what I could do to kind of share. I could, if I could get investment from them, I could give them a great return on their money. So we've actually raised 170k in the year, which has really helped us to fund some of the deals that we've done. Just one thing to mention, landlord letters, I think has been a really important element of our strategy this year. 2020, there were still some good deals with estate agents, but 2021, there haven't been. We can all see there are not, there's a lot of competition out there at the moment. House prices are extremely high, and deals are selling straight away. So what's been great though is, on top of the two deals I did in 2020, I think I've done two great deals in 2021, which have been direct to vendor with retiring landlords. And so, yeah, it's been really great to, avoid the competition by having the conversations with retiring landlords. So here's a case study from last year. So this is a HMO in Swansea, just outside the city centre. Right, so I spotted this one when I was looking on Zoopla, and it was down as, I think, a house with many bedrooms, but it didn't mention anywhere that it was a HMO. So it didn't come up on my alerts that I do in Zoopla to find HMOs. But I looked at it and thought, this has got fire doors, this has got smoke detectors, it just looks like a HMO. So I went on the planning portal, and I could see it had planning permission to be a HMO. But actually, the previous owner had set it up as a HMO, but very, very poorly. It didn't have things like a washing machine and tumble dryer. It had one shower between 6 people. Do you know what I mean? It was just, and a separate bath. It just was not set up. It didn't have enough furniture in the rooms. So we quickly kind of saw the opportunity because it was available at a very low price. We initially kind of negotiated 130,000. Actually, kind of following some coaching that I had in the deal sourcing masterclass with Hanif Khan. He gave some advice around negotiation, which helped me to get a further £10,000 off that asking price during while it was in conveyancing, which was really great. And I did that basically because I didn't know when I was going to be able to tenant this property in the first lockdown. So it was really great that I was able to knock a bit more off. So we purchased it for 120k. We spent about 11k on a light refurb, just giving the property all the amenities that it needed to work for tenants. But I must say, this was right at the beginning of my Mastermind journey. So I know a lot more now about kind of design principles and things like that, making it more appealing to tenants. So as it stands right now, I refinanced it after 6 months. And with the ROI this property's getting, I expected a good valuation. But I kind of got a bricks and mortar valuation as if it was the house next door. So that was disappointing, but I was able to get 16k from a further advance. So now I've only got 24k left in this deal. It makes net cash flow after all expenses of £1,122 per calendar month, which is an ROI of 57%. It's been quite an easy deal, to be honest, but it's still making a great return. We started off targeting blue-collar workers because there's quite a bit of industry around, and a shopping centre and things like that. But actually, there's a hospital about a mile away, and we've had good demand from hospital workers. So I think we've got 3 in the property at the moment, doctors even. So we're in the process. When a tenant leaves now, we're doing a rolling refurb. I'm putting some of the design principles I'm learning into practice, and I think there's comfortably an extra £50 a room in rents to achieve from this property as well, which should also lead to a better valuation in the future as well. Okay, so this is a second case study. So I've got these 2 photos here because this is the one where I've said just finding value in in a hot market. So I talked to a landlord. He had a 4-bed HMO. Wasn't really looking at 4-bed HMOs, but he did say that he had 2 reception rooms, and I'm showing them both there. So really, we negotiated a price which at 172k for this 4-bed HMO, but I know that I can turn it into a 5-bed. With it, once it's a 5-bed, it stacks up really well. So it's the end value. I'm looking at HMOs at a 5-bed in Swansea at the moment. They're 210 to 230. I'm seeing some up for even more. But I'll have money left in of 52k once I buy it at 172. It should complete next week. So once I buy it at 172k and do the refurb, I'll have money left in of 52k, which is a refurb, which is an ROI of 18%. Net cash flow after expenses just short of 1,000. And I've said there's scope to take some more cash back out through a further advance because I've mortgaged it, or I could just refinance it in 2 years and get some cash out, and that will obviously increase the ROI. So this is a summary of my deals. So you can, the 2 in there that I've shown you already are Martin Street and St Helens Avenue. I also bought a 6-bed student HMO, Finsbury Terrace. So I bought it, but the previous landlord had tenanted it for the next year, and I only bought it in July, and tenants were moving in July. So I've not been able to do the refurb that I want to do in that property. Once I've done that refurb, that will make over £1,500 a month in cash flow. And I've got a 4-bed HMO at Funhome Drive that's due to complete any time as well. And that one will cash flow after expenses 10,578 per month. So you can see I haven't got a summary of the equity, but the equity in those properties, you can see it's 38k, hopefully more than that in Martin Street, once I get a realistic valuation. 117k at Finsbury Terrace, 73k Funhome Drive, 78k St Helens Avenue. And the net cash flow from these investments adds up to over 54k per year once I've completed the refurbs on the 2 in conveyancing and get it tenanted. So I'm really thrilled with these results. And on top of this, the same as the 2 chaps who've presented before, I've invested in business-to-business, rent-to-rent schemes that was presented to us as a group, as a great opportunity, and I'm making £82,000 per year cash flow from that as well. So in total, once I get these 2 final HMOs tenanted, my cash flow will be £136,000 a year, better than it was when I started Mastermind with 4 HMOs. So I'm really thrilled with those results. Some top tips. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to whiz through these. Celebrate success, but try not to let the near misses get you down. Gosh, for every deal I've done, I've come that close. I've come close to getting a PLO, close to a vendor finance deal, and I could have done them, but they just didn't quite stack up. And so, just try not to get too down when things fall apart, when the deals don't happen, because there are more that will follow. Stack your deals, do your due diligence. But when you see an opportunity, act fast. I think if it's a great deal out there to be had, unless you're direct to vendor particularly, someone else is gonna nab it quickly if you don't. So don't procrastinate. I'm an accumulator, so I like looking at the detail. And accumulate is something that I've learned through wealth dynamics. But so my default is to do a lot of analytics, and a lot of analysis. But if you see a great deal, don't get bogged down. Get your offer in. Be prepared to work hard. I think we've all learned this year. Just doing the learning takes a lot of commitment, but you've got to take action with it to get the results that you want. And it's just a huge time commitment to try and achieve what people have in a year. But ultimately, you won't achieve what you want to achieve without really hard work. So it's worth mentioning that at the beginning. Put your systems in place and be prepared to outsource to leverage time. I've learned this the hard way. Because I'm an accountant, I thought I can do all my bookkeeping, I can do my tax returns, I can do everything. And because it's not what I want to do, I leave it till last minute. And I'm doing it when I want to be doing deals. My coach and mentor, Ian Lloyd and Bernadette Lloyd, they've helped me so much with this. Because it has changed my default a little bit. And things like putting a VA in place, I've outsourced bookkeeping, it's made a huge difference. I'm not going to talk about wealth dynamics, but that was something that I was also skeptical of at the beginning of the process. And learning about my wealth dynamics profile as an accumulator has helped me so much to understand what I'm in flow doing, what I enjoy doing and I'm productive doing, and what I'm not in flow doing and I'm not productive doing. And finally, for anyone new to property investing, invest in your education. If you're a newbie, start with a book, whatever, a magazine. But, you know, commit to learning, because you can lose a lot of money in property if you're not educated. But also, you know, there are huge opportunities out there when you learn. Finally, I know I'm out of time, but I just want to thank Simon, Andy and the team. This year, they've had to really pivot. I know they've had to do things differently because of the lockdowns. But at no point have I felt like we've lost momentum. The training that went online was just brilliant and kept the momentum going. I've really enjoyed it. The course has been fine-tuned over years. So I've enjoyed every element of it, whether it's been the online training, the workshops, the coaching, the 2 days of mentoring was just brilliant. Wealth dynamics, it's all just really benefited me so much. So I really want to thank them in particular and the whole team for just keeping things going through all the uncertainty and lockdowns and things like that. It's just been amazing. So I just want to thank you. I also, just the final thing I want to do, I know I'm out of time, I want to thank my wife and I want to thank my daughter, because they've made huge sacrifices this year, because the time commitment to Mastermind is big, but you know, we've achieved what we wanted to achieve, I believe, so it's been worth it. But I really want to thank them because they've made sacrifices as big as me through all this. So I just want to thank them, and I think they're watching, so I want to mention them specially. So thank you.
I do hope you got massive value from watching this YouTube video. I'd encourage you to click on the link below to come and do the online training with me. And I've got another video lined up for you, which I think is also going to be really useful, that you should watch once you've registered for the online training with me. So invest with knowledge, invest with skill. I'll see you very soon.